So, we're ready. Well, I know a lot of you know me as being a challenger of council tax, and so I decided to take a really drastic step. I had the great good fortune to be able to buy my own house about 11 years ago. As a result, after my mum died, I had enough money to actually buy a house, which was, for me, unheard of amount of money. So I bought a house, and after I'd been in it for 2 or 3 years, I started to get really hacked off about the whole council tax situation. So it's not really working properly, is it? Right, so I decided to go full on and challenge the council, and the fundamental basis of my challenge was that I told them I just didn't have a contract with them for them to demand any money from me, and so I did loads and loads of paperwork. A lot of it was phrased in common law free-man terms, and so I stopped paying them, and that was something like about 5 or 6 years ago, and I tried absolutely every which way to nail them on it. Went through all the processes, the liability of the hearings, etc., etc. But they absolutely just refused to take notice of absolutely anything and everything that I presented them with. Even to the point where the council tax boss wrote me a letter saying that the council does not need to have a contract with you to demand council tax, which I thought was a really amazing statement to make.
Force a contract?
No, he says that they do not need to have a contract, meaning that they can just demand the money anyway. No,
it's called a
what.
dictatorship.
Yeah, that's right. So a few years ago they decided to put a charge on my house, which they did, and then a couple of years afterwards they put another one on, which effectively means that if ever the house gets sold, then they can take the money out of the proceeds of the sale. So after deliberating on this whole thing for about 3 years, I eventually decided that I was going to sell the house, which I did about a month ago. So now I'm in a situation where I haven't got anywhere fixed to live, but I'm perfectly used to doing all sorts of things, camping out, temporary accommodation, etc., etc. I've had a hell of a lot of practice at it, and I'm now in a position where they can't strip any asset from me. And one of the processes of thought that I've been through for several years is that I actually want to get to a position where I haven't got any assets, because the long view that I've got through knowing all sorts of people like Guy and Tom and followed their cases very, very closely and helped with them, I've come to the conclusion that the society that we live in and the style of economy that we're in is that whoever it is that thinks that we owe them money has the power to strip our assets. And it looks to me as though we're living in a situation where the whole country, if not the whole world, is being asset stripped by acquisitive people that think they have the right to steal anything off anybody. And the whole debt recovery system has been built around having the power to steal people's stuff. That includes cars, houses, bank accounts, you name it, they'll nick it. So I decided to get myself in that respect off grid, and it's been a very, very interesting experience because I'm pulled in so many different directions. On one side it's a very insecure position to be in, and on the other hand it's very, very liberating to know that they can't do anything else to me now. There is, however, the issue of the fact that they've got all that money. Because what happened was, it turned out that the sale of the property was really, really simple. I found a cash buyer, so it all went through really quickly. and I negotiated the whole thing with the buyer's solicitor, so I didn't need my own solicitor. It's a very, very simple thing to do. And it turns out that when it came time to sort things out with the council, the buyer's solicitor communicated with the council, came to an agreement about how much money was owed, and then they just said, well, that's okay, and just released the property for sale on the basis that they got their money according to these charging orders that they put on the property. So there's several £1,000s that they took from the sale price. But what the council don't yet know is that I actually want that money back. And now that they can't do anything else to me, I'm in a position where I can play a really long game with them, and to somehow or another try to find a way to corner them over the whole raft of illegalities that they employed in taking the money in the first place. And you can be quite sure that there are massive illegalities. They say that it's all standard procedure, but in actual point of fact they do things that are completely and utterly fraudulent in order to get charging orders on the property. And one of the ways they do it is by falsifying a conversion of a liability order into a county court order, which they need in order to make a person a debtor, because magistrates' courts can't make people debtors unless they found you guilty of something. But when it comes to a debt for a third party like a council, they can't make you a debtor, only the county court can. And so there's a whole fraudulent process whereby they convert liability orders into county court orders, which then mean that they can put a charge on your property because you are a debtor. So I'm now in the process of formulating a whole series of challenges to them, and they're really not going to like it. And one of the things I've decided to do is that because I haven't got a forwarding address, I'm going to actually have to go down to the council offices to pick up the responses to my letters. So one thing I'm planning to do is to go in there and make an arrangement with the secretaries of all the council officers that are going to get the letters, that I'm going to come in on a certain date and pick up their replies. I believe they've got a statutory 10 working days to reply to any letter. So after 14 days I'm going to go back in there and go and see the solicitors of each of the officers, including the CEO, and say I've come for my reply to my previous letter. So what I'm planning to do is to go on and on, and just basically not leave them alone, knowing full well that there is absolutely nothing that they can do to me. But absolutely completely free of all of that. And just as a matter of interest, the first intervention I'm going to make, just for your interest on point of law, is that in a previous talk that I gave, I think it was last summer in London, I pointed out that there were two fantastic High Court judgments against the magistrates in council tax liability order hearings from the previous year, in which the judge had, in one case, had actually quashed a liability order, and that was on the very fine legal point that when there's a liability order hearing, the magistrates don't quiz the council on the amount of money that the costs are applied for. They just across the board rubber stamp the demand for costs without asking the council to show whether they were reasonably incurred, which is against the rules. But incidentally, during that judgment, I see about 20-page judgment, which is really worth reading, the judge pointed out that liability orders aren't subject to the civil procedure rules. So therefore you can't use civil procedure cost rules to figure out the costs. And she also said later on that those hearings aren't subject to the criminal procedure rules either, because they have different rules for costs. So the only way you can work out how to apportion costs is to go to the council tax regulations. So going on the fact that a High Court judge has said that a liability order is subject to neither the civil nor the criminal procedure rules, my first question to the council is going to be, well, what rules are they subject to then? If the hearings aren't criminal, and if they're not civil, what are they? And it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they say, because what with the work that Guy's doing, and with another case that I've also got on the go, which is completely different, I'm actually very interested in knowing how the legal system makes a distinction between what is actually civil and what is actually criminal. Because it's a major question. Apparently the Law Commission has been tasked with coming up with a criminal code of some kind for Britain, in which it's supposed to class offences or crimes or whatever as either being civil or criminal. But the Law Commission has never ever come up with a code. So that means that we live in a jurisdiction which actually has never ever been able to define specifically whether certain kinds of offences are criminal or civil. So I'm seeing the council tax question as an interesting way into trying to get at least some part of the legal system to make a definition about what is criminal and what is civil. And it's a very big topic, because it covers virtually everything from a parking ticket to a seatbelt ticket to a speeding ticket. They're all been dressed up as being criminal, but all it really boils down to, it's a criminalisation of debt, fake debt. Because if a speeding offence isn't truly a criminal offence, then it has to be something commercial. But they've got it dressed up as criminal. So the civil versus criminal argument is actually very, very basic to the whole system of stripping us of massive amounts of fines. And I'm sure it must total billions and billions of pounds a year in just parking tickets and speeding tickets alone, quite apart from all the rest of the stuff. And it goes across everything. So I'm actually feeling very, very optimistic that having sold the safety net of a roof, I actually feel as though I'm in a position now where I can really go for them on certain fronts, and I'm virtually untouchable in lots and lots of different ways. So and of course, as everybody keeps telling me, I'm not that young either. So it's a very strange feeling not to have the security of the roof. But I just find it more fascinating than worrying. So
I don't know if anyone realises such a courageous move at the age of 85, isn't it? Yeah, he's an absolutely exceptional man, great deal of knowledge of the law, and brilliant. Well done to him.